good Russia are.
No, we really don't. I mean,
Saudi Arabia were awful.
They were absolutely terrible. I mean, like it was a briefly encouraging performance at the start. I see our own Shane Stapleton, the hurling show, by the way, is coming up after this. He was tweeting that Saudi Arabia had outplayed Ireland in terms of football in the opening 2 minutes. You know, they felt that I think they had 10 minutes in them, and they were like, let's just go for this and let's keep the ball on the ground. They're a tiny team.
Yeah.
Like, I know Russia have an average height of 6 foot in their starting team yesterday, so they were naturally coming up against a team of giants, and it was really noticeable yesterday, just the contracted effort to keep the ball on the ground and really no plan B, and even keeping the ball on the ground, they were lacking in quality in so many important areas of the pitch to cause any problems really for Russia.
Yeah, if you actually look at the possession stats, that's 61% possession. Yeah. So Russia were quite happy to let them have it, and then as soon as they got up to Russia's final third, they just pick it off them and hit them on the break. Russia actually had a bit of pace about them as well, but like you mentioned, the aerial threat, like when Zuba came on, he was only on 89 seconds. He is a monster. You know, obviously Russia has an association with ballet. He certainly doesn't have the grace of a ballerina, but
who knows? Get him on get him into the Bolshoi or some sort of theatre like that, and you know, Zuba could turn into some sort of other more graceful beast. Who knows? Yeah,
he's one of those players. He had something to prove when he came on. I know he is a Zenit St. Petersburg player, and Mancini was in charge there. Zuba had a falling out with him, which, you know, that's. We know what Mancini's like. It's not unusual for someone to fall out with him. But he then went on loan. And like we see in the Premier League, you can't play against your loan club. But he actually did get to play. I think there's even a story that he contributed to the fee so he could play against Zenit, and he scored.
Right, okay.
Against them. So
I didn't know that.
I think he was quite happy about that. He was like, Mancini, this is what you're missing.
Yeah, geez, right, okay. Well, there's some interesting facts. Have you got any interesting facts for us, or have you got any opinions on last night's game, or indeed anything to do with the World Cup? You can tweet us at Off The Ball or comment on the stream if you happen to be watching on YouTube or Facebook. We do want to tell you about some of the offers that BoyleSports have got going on at the moment. offtheball.com/BoyleSports is where to go for that. They're offering 25 to 1 for new customers on any goal to be scored in Spain versus Portugal tonight. That one kicks off at 7 o'clock this evening. The other game is Morocco versus Iran, which kicks off at 3 o'clock, and the 1 o'clock game is Egypt versus Uruguay, which I've already said has some big team news coming out of it. We can bring you the teams on screen now. I presume we're going to show you the Egypt team first, because that is where the big news is today. Mo Salah does not start for the Egyptians. He is on the bench. You can see the starting 11 there. It is El Shenawi in goals, which is actually a talking point in itself, Phil.
I'm devastated. I wanted El Hadari to play, the 45-year-old.
45-year-old.
Yeah, but he's going to be sitting on the bench, unfortunately.
It is a shame. Across the back four, it looks like it's going to be Fathi, Gabber, Higazi. People will know Higazi from the Premier League, and Abdel Shafi. Then you've got Hamed El Neni, who a lot of Arsenal fans will know sitting in front of the defence there. Then on the wide left, you've got Mahmoud Trezeguet, who's an excellent player as well, who a lot of people would know. Abdullah El Said in the middle, just behind the striker, and Amir Varda out wide right. Mohsen then leading the line up top. We can't really analyse that team, to be honest. It's going to take a couple of games before we know how Egypt are going to play. You presume, maybe just basing it on the fact that they've got two sitting deep in front of the defence, they're going to be happy with a 0-0 here this afternoon. Yeah,
well, they don't concede goals under Hector Cooper, and his game plan is sit in and try and get the ball to Salah as quick as you can. So that obviously isn't going to be the case today. I can understand why he hasn't played him, because I was only thinking about it. A lot of the talk is that he would have been fit for this game, but I just reflect back to the night of the Champions League final, and Liverpool, obviously, their starting 11 was quite strong. But when Salah went off, there was that sense around the game, even talking to people who were at the match, Liverpool fans who were at the match, there was a sense that when Salah came off, that signalled the end of the challenge. Yeah. Because he's been that good. And there's a sense that that would be the risk with Egypt, that the star of their team, if you risk him and he comes off during this game, the first group game of the World Cup, then it just would be a real dampener on their World Cup campaign even before it gets going.
It's a good point. We've got a poll up on Off The Ball's Twitter at the moment with saying that there's no Salah in Egypt starting 11. Would you have started a half-fit Mo Salah for the first game of the World Cup? You can hop onto our Twitter account there and vote on that. It is currently 43% yes, 57% no. So you, the listeners and the viewers, are of the opinion that really it shouldn't have been a Mo Salah starting situation, which I kind of agree with myself. I think you need to be a little bit more cautious in the first game of the Championship. Before we cross over over to Russia, to John Duggan. Let's show you the Uruguay team this afternoon. They've got all their big hitters involved. Godin and Jimenez at the heart of defence. You've got Bentancur in there. You've got Muslera in defence. You've got Hernandez in there. And, of course, Cavani and Suarez. You kind of tipped Cavani for Golden Boot yesterday. I put a couple of quid on Suarez for Golden Boot after I witnessed that Saudi Arabian defence last night.
That's what I was thinking watching the game. When Russia scored 5 goals, I think Cavani could score 5 himself against Saudi Arabia. I wonder, is there a problem maybe with Suarez and Cavani? They could share the goals if you're trying to get any value of backing either of them for top scorer. But I just think Cavani probably is a bit more mobile than Suarez these days. Maybe he's going to score more goals. The team itself, obviously the fact that they've got Jimenez and Godin as their central defence, but I look at Caceres, who Southampton fans will remember, he played 1 game for them. They came from Juventus. He's now playing with Lazio. He's had a lot of injuries. I'd be interested to see how he gets on. Varela, Manchester United fans will remember him. He didn't really make much of an impact at United. He plays his club football back in Uruguay now. And a lot has been made of Hernandez, the Boca Juniors midfielder, young 22-year-old. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And
what sort of player is he? Is he kind of a deep-lying playmaker kind of thing?
He's one that's certainly going to create. Bentancur we saw at Juventus, and I've seen a bit of Vecino for Inter. And look, Suarez and Cavani, it's a bit different now. They're obviously a bit older. They're probably going to be more in the box rather than Cavani and Suarez previously would have been quite happy to come out wide and make space. But I think it's going to be a case of get us the ball, we will score you goals. Yeah,
it is T-minus 51 minutes until kick-off in that one. It is Egypt versus Uruguay in Group A. Remember, we're going to have Leon Blanche of BoyleSports joining us in a few moments. But before all that, let's go to Russia. Duggan, how are things?
Eoin and Phil, good afternoon, happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed. I presume Moscow is absolutely buzzing after what happened last night.
It is, yeah. I was on the metro on the way back from the Luzhniki and it was chants, there was happy people on flags, and most of the 80,000 crowd are Russian, of course, and they did it in style. What a way to start their own World Cup, a 5-0 win over Saudi Arabia, thoroughly deserved, 2 substitutes scoring, and an excellent performance by Alexander Golovin, I thought. Who impressed in the Europa League against Arsenal and did so again last night with the icing on the cake, that free kick into the top corner. The Luzhniki is a fantastic stadium. As Chelsea and Manchester United fans will know, that we're lucky enough to be there 10 years ago for the Champions League final. But Vladimir Putin will be happy, the natives will be happy, and they've got off to a fantastic start. But it's all about them in Egypt, and I suppose if you're clever enough to think that if the Egypt-Russia game is the one that's going to determine it, it's better to have maybe a fit Mo Salah for that rather than risking him today.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Did anybody see that result coming last night at all? I mean, Golovin, I think you had spoken about him in the lead-up to the game. It's still only one player. It's still only a player who, with this perceived world-class ability.
Yeah, I think in a normal situation, like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, we'd expect maybe a result like this, Russia against Saudi Arabia, even though Saudi Arabia were decent in the 90s. But Saudi Arabia lads were just really, really poor, really poor. There was one moment, I think, for the Cherysev's first goal, when it was like, you know, when you're playing PlayStation and you kind of get the joystick stuck and the player kind of stops and the other player goes past you. That's what it was like. I mean, like literally Golovin just ghosted play, like he had about 10 yards to make it a player and he just did it within 5 seconds. And it's like that, you know, when you're like, oh, the controls are gone on the PlayStation. That's what it was like. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So they were very pedestrian. They were kind of out-muscled as well, I thought, Saudi Arabia. All these apologies today, which is really, really strange. If you don't have a good enough players...
it's the new thing, John.
They also had... they couldn't keep their coach, Van Marwijk, after he got them to the finals. So they've only got themselves to blame. It's not Pizzi's fault. He hasn't had long. He's a Copa America winner. So, look, they've only got themselves to blame. But it's all about the Egypt game for Russia. This will be very quickly forgotten if they can't beat Egypt and can't get through to the last 16.
When you say Saudi Arabia were bad, John... Obviously, we could see what they were like on the ball. Just off the ball, what were they like in terms of shape? Did they have a plan, or was it Russia just were able to play through them that easy?
Played through them very easily. You know, they did some chances. They had 3 or 4 chances. Al-Salawi, I think, had a couple of chances, but actually didn't have a shot on goal the whole game. I think they had one header over, but they didn't have a shot on goal the whole game. They're playing around their own defence and didn't have any kind of shape that I would see. But yeah, they were abject lads, and there won't be many worse teams in the tournament. But what I think it does say is that you have to have stability in terms of your coaches, and this is why I would fear for Spain tonight with the pedigree. I'd fear for Japan in this regard. Countries change their coaches. Also, I think it's happened in Serbia and Croatia. Not Serbia, they've obviously changed their captain, but it happened in Croatia recently that they offloaded their coach before the World Cup.
There seems to be consensus on Saudi Arabia. There seems to be consensus on some of those goals last night for Russia. There doesn't seem to be consensus on Robbie Williams' performance last night, John. What did you make of that?
Well, I was lucky enough to get into the game, lads. I only got in with 15 minutes to go, given the demand of the journalists that everybody wanted to be at the opening ceremony. So it's very much a lastminute.com thing for me. So it's a really funny one. When I went to see Ireland play England at Twickenham in March on St. Patrick's Day, I kind of went through the tunnel. That bit, all you can hear is the noise. You can't see anything. All I could hear was God Save the Queen. When I came out last night into the arena, all I could hear was Robbie Williams, let me entertain you. So it probably was a little bit uninspiring for me, but that was quickly forgotten when you saw how magnificent the Luzhniki is, how many great games are going to be staged here at this World Cup, and of course then a dream win for the hosts of 5-0. Looking
at Russia then going forward, did you see enough in them to suggest they might actually be able to get something against Egypt or against Uruguay?
I don't think against Uruguay. I think against Egypt, a lot depends on Salah. Like, Salah is Egypt. He got them through those crucial goals against the Congo. Scored 5 goals in qualifying. Of course, we know he scored 32 Premier League goals for Liverpool last season. And whatever about the likes of the West Brom lads or El Neni from Arsenal, it's all about Mo Salah for Egypt. And Russia's backs will be up now in terms of, in a good way. They'll have the fans behind them. Do they have enough quality? I think they're still an average enough side. They're an average enough team. Yeah. But they've got a couple of decent players. I mean, Cheryshev obviously played most of his career in Spain. Played well, but it was really. I mean, what I was thinking while I was running out of the stadium last night, this can be a goal difference group rather than whether people are going to beat Saudi Arabia or not. Or it could be into like Honduras, El Salvador territory, that kind of thing. Yeah. I think it was Hungary, El Salvador, 1992. They beat them 10-1.
Right, okay. That's it is kind of that kind of scenario at this point. Everybody's going to beat Saudi Arabia by the looks of things. From the way you're talking there, you're obviously heavily favouring Uruguay this afternoon. Is there a possibility that Egypt get to maybe 0-0, maybe even 1-0 with 70 minutes in the game, and then they bring Mo Salah in? Is that too much of a risk?
No, if he's not fit. It's all about getting to the last 16, and you need to get past Russia to get to the last 16 if you consider that Egypt will beat Saudi Arabia. So maybe Hector Cooper has been clever here. He's a clever coach. He got Valencia to 2 Champions League finals. Very defensive team. The last time Egypt were, of course, in the World Cup was the infamous time when Eamon Dunphy threw the pen across, or was the pencil across the studio. So maybe if Egypt do a good job today, there'll be people in Uruguay TV studios throwing pens and pencils across the studio, because I think all they can hope for really in Egypt is a goalless draw, because it's all about defence. It's all about 10 men behind the ball for me. And like Uruguay, I think what I'm really interested in is, as Phil was talking about there, the likes of Nandez, the likes of Bentancur, these young lads. They actually nicknamed Nandez, and if you look at the photo of him, they nicknamed him the Baby Rooney, because he does look a lot like Wayne Rooney. Plays for Boca Juniors, and then Bentancur has been at Juventus. These young up-and-coming midfielders, a lot of stability in the team. Of course, Jimenez and Godin, the Atletico centre-back pairing, and Suarez and Cavani, both 31 years of age now. I think they've scored something like 93 goals or something like that between them for the national team, which is just astonishing, really, over their careers. Of course, they got to the semi-finals in South Africa 2010. They won the Copa America a year later, and the only reason I'm referencing that is because Oscar Tabarez, the coach, has been there forever, which is so unusual in football, and maybe it's a good thing about international football. He's been there since 2006, but that hasn't been his first spell. He brought them to the 1990 World Cup in Italy, way back when, 30 years ago.
This Uruguay team, they're obviously dark horses for a lot of people. The reason for that, it seems to me, John, is just the draw they've been given, that they're probably going to top this group, and we don't know how good Portugal are really going to be, if they are going to be that ageing at the back. That are the people in Uruguay. I'm not sure if you bumped into many Uruguayans, but certainly if I was a Uruguayan, I'm expecting a quarter-final result here.
Yeah, I'm expecting that as well. I mean, it was only 8 years ago that Forlan was so instrumental, and he won the golden ball and getting them to the semi-finals. They lost to the Dutch. Uruguayans, they're a country that, like a bit like ourselves, although we're going through a bit of a slump at the moment, but that punches above its weight. I think it's only just got over 3 million people. Of course, they're very near Argentina geographically, but you remember the players they've had in the past, you know. So Francescoli, I think it was Enzo Francescoli was one I really remember from the 80s and 90s. They've always been a reputation as being a very physical, tough team that plays on the edge. But I think, as we've seen in the last few years, the likes of Suarez have brought quality as well as edge to the team. I think the draw, we're going to find out a lot from Morocco around today.
Yeah.
Because in a way, that's their cup final. Spain-Portugal in itself will determine an awful lot. But who knows who Uruguay could be facing by the time we get to the last 16.
Yeah, there's a good chance they might end up playing Portugal, but that will all depend on how tonight's game go. Just looking back on, obviously you're in Moscow. I'm interested to see what was Moscow like last night. I know what cities in Dublin in Ireland are like when Ireland have a big win at a tournament. What was it like in Russia last night?
Well, obviously, there's only so much you can see if you're trying to get around. If you're working here, so there's a limitation on what you can see. But all you'll know is from the metro. I was saying this to the lads on the evening show last night. I've never seen anything like it when I walked out of the stadium. If you think about a hotel corridor, which is quite narrow when you're walking down a hotel corridor, that was what the police set up for the walk for the fans to get back to the metro. So if you're walking down a narrow straight line, there's police on either side of that line, which is they're very polite, they're very welcoming. It's very, very safe, but it is extremely safe, and there is a huge police presence, and it's a case of they're treating this as an international sporting event, which they do not want anything to go wrong in. In terms of the fans, huge atmosphere in the metro, great celebrations. That's all I got to see, because obviously I couldn't go out and sample the nightlife, but maybe I will before the month is out. But I don't know if Russia will be still there by the time I get to do that.
There's a comment on YouTube from Dmitry Bozovic saying we are all underestimating Russia, John. I'm not sure if we are underestimating Russia. I think we've got to properly estimate just how bad the Saudi team is.
Correct. I would absolutely agree with that. I think they're both average sides. Well, Russia and average side, Saudi Arabia are very poor sides. I didn't think it was a great game, to be honest. They got a few champagne goals. That's it. Move on. But the real opening game of the World Cup is in Sochi tonight, lads.
Yeah, and on that game, it is Spain versus Portugal. It is a 7 o'clock kickoff this evening. It seems that we're getting a delayed reaction to the build-up to this game, John, doesn't it? Because of everything that's been happening over the last couple of days. How do you actually envisage this game going? How can Portugal approach this game in a manner that will see them not lose to Spain?
Probably by playing the way they've always played under Fernando Santos, which is very defensively, 4-4-2, functional. Like the centre backs that worry about it a little bit in terms of Font and Pep if they play. I think Bruno Alves, the third centre back, I think it's 105 years between the three of them. The midfielder once again is functional. Jean Mario, Jean Moutinho, William Carvalho, Bernardo Silva has been good for Manchester City. Of course, it's all about Ronaldo. They've given a free roll in the 4-4-2. Had an amazing season. He seems to be getting better at age, 33 years of age. 43 goals in 43 games last season, 15 goals in qualifying, 15 goals in the Champions League last season. It's all about him, really. What are Spain going to do to shackle him? You'll have Ramos, Ronaldo, Piqué, Ronaldo. A bit worried about, there's going to be some talk that Gonzalo Guedes might play. He's been at Valencia instead of it's Andre Silva, who hasn't had a great season at Milan. There's a bit of talk about that in the papers this morning. So functional, for all that they won the Euros, I think they only won, was it 3 of the matches? I think a lot of the matches went to penalties. So they didn't win the Euro, and they played quite weakened teams like Wales in the semi-final. They beat, I think, Poland on penalties. So they didn't win the Euros in a swashbuckling fashion that you might have expected from a Portugal team back when they really had a golden generation, and they didn't win any trophies. So you got to give Fernando Santos credit. He doesn't have Luis Figo, he doesn't have Rui Costa, but he does have these young players like coming through. Like is it Ruben Dias from Benfica, the defender, Bruno Fernandes, who's an excellent young talent. I think he scored 13 times in the league last season. So how much does he want to mix it up and bring youth into play? And I think the way they play against Spain, and if they can, I think if Portugal get a draw out of this, I think they'll be happy. But Spain are such an unknown now after the Lopetegui thing. It's very difficult to kind of estimate. Like if Lopetegui was here, you could say, okay, we know what the trend has been qualifying. We know the players he likes, like Isco. We know he's going to play 4-3-3. We know like they're going to, own the ball and probably win 1-0. But now it's a little bit more of a mystery.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys agree, but that's the way I kind of feel about it.
Absolutely. There's so much. There was obviously, this is one that caught the eye before the World Cup. Spain-Portugal, second day. This is going to be great. Obviously, what's happened with Spain in the last few days makes it even more intriguing. And Sergio Ramos was interesting yesterday in the press conference. He was there with Hierro, and a lot of the questions were actually directed towards Ramos, probably because Hierro had talked the day before. But he was very much, as he was leaving the press conference, there was a lot of gloom around there because of what had happened. And he said, lads, football tomorrow, it's all about that. And that seems to be the attitude from the Spanish players. But I just wonder if Portugal frustrates them for a while. When the Spanish players are faced with a bit of adversity, can they actually stick together, or will that's when the creaks start happening?
It's a good question, because in 2014 they were completely shell-shocked by Holland, whereas in 2020, and every time they needed to stick together, because I heard that Hierro, after they lost to Switzerland in the first game in 2010, gave them a pep talk and said, lads, look, we still have this, European champions, keep it together and get going. And they beat Portugal on the way to winning the World Cup, and I think they won nearly every game 1-0. But you have Andres Iniesta there, you have Sergio Ramos there. Sergio Ramos is one of the players in the World Cup, but I don't think doesn't give a hoot about anything. And has got that strong mental strength. So you should have enough leaders in the team. And if you don't have enough leaders with the likes of Iniesta and Gerard Piqué and Sergio Ramos there to be able to salvage the situation and say, look, lads, let's roll up the sleeves. I remember, I think, when England reached the 2007 Rugby World Cup in France, the final, they were written off completely, but the players just grabbed the situation by the scruff of the neck and said, look, we're just going to do this. And I think that there should be enough characters, strong characters in the Spanish dressing room, including Diego Costa, to say, look, you know what, we got to just prove that it's not all about Real Madrid and Spanish FA politics here. It's about us as great players, decorated players, World Cup winners, some of us, going out here and beating Portugal, which they're well capable of doing, given Portugal are a functional team. But as you say, I think this is correct. I think this could be goalless in 60 minutes, and that's when it's going to get very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that's going to be very interesting as well, and it's going to be where you are tomorrow, John, is Argentina versus Iceland. It's in the Spartak Stadium in Moscow. Are these fears that Argentina might not get even out of Group D, are those fears founded in your view?
Slightly, I would say. There's a press conference at 7 o'clock this evening, and obviously the reason for that is because South American, it'll be 1 o'clock back in Argentina. So I'm going to go to that, and we'll see what Lionel Messi and Jorge Sampaoli say. I think a lot of the uncertainty around Argentina is because they've had so many managerial changes. Sampaoli, who led Chile to the Copa America at Argentina's expense, is only in there a year. He's fiddled around with a load of systems. I had the stat that. What was the stat that he had? I can't see it off the top of my head here now, but I think it's like something like 40 different systems or whatever, 40 players he used and all these kinds of different systems. But ultimately, to distill it into English, which I probably should have done 5 seconds ago, he likes a high press. He's an attacking-minded coach, and the concern is that Argentina don't have the players defensively and in holding midfield roles to enable that to prosper. Now, of course, they got the attackers, Higuain, Dybala, neither of whom might start, Angel Di Maria and Aguero, both of whom are in much better shape than they were 4 years ago, and then, of course, Messi himself. So I don't think there's any worry about their attacking prowess. But Sampaoli didn't really have enough... we couldn't really assess how he was doing because he came in quite late. Messi scored a hat-trick against Ecuador. They got through to the World Cup, so they're a little bit of unknown. I think they've had to have a lot of work done on the training pitch. Can we trust the likes of Nicolas Otamendi in defence? Javier Mascherano, given I've done the Forvo pronunciation. Don't know his pronunciations, and half of them are nothing like what we think they are. He's an old player now. He's 34, I think now, and so he's the light of other days. But is he still going to be is he going to be the Busquets of Argentina, and will he be able to? Not necessarily tomorrow against Iceland, but in the quarterfinal or the last 16, will Argentina have the quality, effectively, in the first 6 players to be able to win a World Cup? That's the big question, and I think there's a bit of doubt about that. Yeah. What do you think, lads? What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, no, Argentina and Spain are the 2 teams that interest me most now. I'm really intrigued to see what happens with Argentina, but I do think they'll top their group. I think they'll have enough time to have worked on the flaws in training, and I'm confident they're going to top that group and get out. And
I have it here, 43 players and 6 tactical systems in 7 months. That's what he's done. Salah.
That is unbelievable.
So I hope he's got it right by now.
Yeah, if you throw enough mud at the wall, you know.
Some of it will eventually stick, surely.
Yeah.
John, listen, go enjoy the press conference tonight. Enjoy Lionel Messi in the flesh. We will chat to you on World Cup Daily next Monday. John Duggan there in Moscow. Thanks for us. He'll be on Off the Ball on all our platforms throughout the weekend, on Newstalk from 7 o'clock tonight, and indeed across the weekend on Newstalk and Today FM and all our digital channels. As I say, you can tweet us this afternoon, though. We're going to be on air for the next 15 minutes or so. You can tweet us at Off the Ball or comment on the streams if you happen to be watching on YouTube or on Facebook. By the way, in a couple of minutes, we're going to be speaking to Leon Blanche from BoyleSports. He's going to be giving us all the tips ahead of today. offtheball.com/BoyleSports for exclusive Off the Ball listener odds. 25-1 for a goal to be scored tonight in Spain versus Portugal is one of the special offers that you can take advantage of today. In the meantime, though, we're going to have a look actually at the moment from Tom Kundert of Portugal.net. He was speaking on Off the Ball last night about Ronaldo's role in this Portugal team.
Well, he'll be up front and he'll be partnered by probably Gonçalo Guedes or André Silva, but I think Guedes has just edged in front because he's been superb in the last few friendlies. But yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo, you know, it's just his natural evolution. You know, everyone knows when he first burst onto the scene, he was like this, you know, swashbuckling winger who basically just tried to beat every single opposition player several times, to do it all on his own. And for a lot of years, he was carrying Portugal, but that's not the case anymore. He's got a lot of really top-class talent there. And of course, as we all know, Ronaldo has really turned into just a penalty box predator now. And I think he's got the people there to provide the bullets. And so obviously he will be, absolutely crucial to Portugal's chances, but perhaps not as key as he has been in the past. You know, and we just need to look at the Euro 2016 final, when Portugal won that when he went off just in the first few minutes. So Portugal aren't as much as Ronaldo plus another 10, which I think they're accused of for a lot of years, and perhaps rightly so. I think nowadays, there's lots of threats for the opposition. If they just focus on Ronaldo, then, I think they could have trouble from the likes of Gonçalo Guedes, Bernardo Silva, João Mario, a lot of really, really talented, skillful attacking players in there.
All right, Leon Blanche of BoyleSports joins us in studio now to look ahead to some of the odds for today's games. It is Egypt against Uruguay, Portugal against Spain, Morocco against Iran. We're going to start from the top down, and we're going to start with Portugal against Spain tonight because, as we mentioned on yesterday's show, 25-1 are the odds if you go to offtheball.com/BoyleSports for a goal in this game.
Just a goal. It can be scored by Spain. If it can be scored by Portugal, it can be any type of goal. 25-1, offtheball.com/BoyleSports. I think we are really giving away money. You would be crazy not to avail a 25-1 for a goal to be scored in tonight's 7 o'clock kickoff. And I think tonight, this will be really the start of the World Cup. Portugal against Spain, two big sides. And we've got a nice appetizer before that as well. Yeah, for sure. Like, when it comes to this game, we'll just focus on this game just for the moment. Portugal against Spain. The whole Spanish scenario has been a strange one. We won't actually know the impact of it until the end of this evening, really, won't we? It's going to take some sort of time to see how they set up. To see,
and I think they lose, then all of a sudden, well, Lopetegui never lost, and then Hierro is under serious pressure, and then the players are under pressure. I just wonder, with the fact that it was the Spanish Football Federation that made the decision, that is there less pressure on the players? If they go out, they're not going to get the blame. It's all going to be pointed at Rubiales, the president of the Spanish Football Federation. Yeah. I wonder how that works. But they're definitely the more talented team. They should win. Oh, they should win. And I mean, now, don't get me wrong, their price has drifted slightly. They're now 11-10 just to win the match. Portugal at 16-5 in the draw, 2-1. But I just think it's a big risk. I know what had gone on behind the scenes is probably not the right way to do it. It's okay going to Real Madrid, but at least tell your current employers what you're thinking, not 5 minutes before a press conference. I think they left him with the Spanish Association. They had to get rid of him. They couldn't stick with him after what had happened. They brought in Hierro. He knows all these players. He's been sporting director. He's been around the scene. He's not going to change too much. This will just be a Spanish win for me. And I think the players, the likes of Ramos, the likes of Piqué, the likes of Iniesta and Acosta, this just to me sounds like Diego Costa's moment. He will be the terrier up front. He'll lead from the front. And I think Costa to score first at 7-2. I think he'll be right up for this. And if you're in one of our shops and he scores
the first goal scorer bet inside 20 minutes, we'll actually double your odds.
Right.
That's only for our shop customers. Go into a store, back a first goal scorer. If they score inside 20 minutes, we're going to double your odds. So if Costa does it, he'd become a 7-1 winner. Diego Aspas, where's he come from?
Well, we see this, if you don't make it in the Premier League, it's not the end of your career. He's had 2 really good seasons with Celta Vigo, and he scored against England in that friendly at Wembley as well. He's actually a really good player. He's just very slight, and he wasn't really able for the Premier League, but he's probably just going to be an impact player.
Yeah, off the
Who
bench.
doesn't want to see Diego Costa go up against Pepe?
No, that's going to be the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we've seen some notable occurrences between the two of them already. Like, was there like spitting involved at one stage, where it was kind of like very sneaky sort of spitting, where Diego Costa would actually throw a spit at Pepe? It was actually disgusting. We've seen it happen in La Liga. But just on this whole kind of Spanish managerial thing, finally, think about it from a Portugal perspective. Like, they've been doing their reconnaissance on Spain for months and months and months now, and now suddenly they've got to second guess what all the data they've collected. Are they going to go with the Lopetegui model? Are they going to go with the Hierro model? If there is a Hierro model, what is that thing? And suddenly they're the ones second guessing, where at least with Spain, they know how they're going to play, they know how they're going to set up, and everything they've collated on Portugal still exists.
I think they'll go with the Lopetegui model. I think they'd be very, very foolish to change it for the first game, and I think Hierro would be foolish. You've got to remember, this is a huge chance for him. He's now in charge of a hugely talented group of players. If he does well, I mean, I think by doing well now after what's happened, I think semi-final would be a good result for Hierro. I think the players will obviously want to win it. This will be the last World Cup for all those big name players. It's the last time we'll ever see Andres Iniesta on a football field. So I think even him in the middle of the park, rousting everyone on. I think the Spanish team, I think this will bring them together. I really do. I hear what they're saying in the media. They're putting out all the right noises, and I don't think that's just for show. I think that's the way they are. I think Spain will win. I'm going to go either 2-1 or 3-1. I think Portugal are capable of scoring with that man Ronaldo in their team. 3-1 is 16-1 and 2-1 is 8-1. But if you're having a bet on this game, it's got to be a goal at 25-1. offtheball.com/BoyleSports.
Yeah, it's an outrageous offer. It's also, before we move on to Egypt and Uruguay and Morocco, Iran, just to give a quick mention to France tomorrow. They're playing in the first of what's going to be an unbelievable day of football. They're up against Australia at 11 a.m. Ireland time. And I understand there's a special offer on Spain and France as a double.
Yeah, we're going to do Spain and France, 2 obviously odds on, or Spain have just gone odds against, but France are 4-1 on. We'll talk about them tomorrow against Australia. So France and Spain to win. It should be 5-6. But we're pushing that out to 2-1. So France and Spain both to win, out to 2-1. offtheball.com/BoyleSports.
I like to look at that so much. We're going to put our €50 charity bet on that double on Spain and France to win. France a banker, so really it's just propping up your Spain bet, really, which is what I'm going to do with that. It's a great day of football generally. It's not just Portugal, Spain today. Egypt, Uruguay in Group A is going to be a cracker. I think we're looking at Uruguay to win this one, Leon. Yeah,
you know what? I really fancy Uruguay to top this group. I fancy them to beat Egypt, and I fancy Uruguay to really be the dark horse of this year's World Cup, considering their price is 28-1 to win the World Cup. They're 8-13 here to win, and I fully expect them to do so. I think Suarez and Cavani, I think they've got 2 of the best strikers in the world up front. I think both of these guys are capable of scoring, and I think they will cause the Egyptian defence plenty of problems. If I was to pick one who'll score, probably just going to go with my old favourite Suarez when he played for Liverpool. I hope this year's World Cup we remember Suarez for what he can do on the football pitch and nothing else. And I think this will probably be his last World Cup. So I think he's matured by now. 5-2 to open the scoring. If you want to play a little bit safer, he's even money to score at any time in this entire contest.
Okay.
So I think even money Suarez to score in the 90 minutes, I think that's probably the way I'd play. I think both teams to score and Uruguay to win is a 7-2 chance. I think there's a little bit of value in that. I think Egypt are capable of scoring, as we saw in their qualification process. But I'm going to go Uruguay to win, Suarez to score at any time, and both teams to score and Uruguay to win at 7-2.
Yeah, it goes without saying, obviously in football, but in this particular game, I think the first goal is crucial. Egypt tend to try and keep things tight. So if Uruguay score first, Egypt have to come out, and then that's where the likes of Cavani and Suarez have a field day.
Yeah, and if Uruguay want to keep it tight as well, they can definitely do that with the two Atletico lads at the back, at the heart of their defence. The other game today, Leon, is Morocco against Iran at 4 o'clock. Morocco, a lot of people are tipping for them to be the dark horses of Group B. And is there any sort of credence in that?
Yeah, well, I think, a little bit later on, Morocco will obviously want to get a win on the board, because after them is Portugal, Spain, and you want to win your first group game, and I think the draw has been kind to them, and I think Morocco are very capable of beating an Iran side who don't even have football boots. So I think Morocco, if you're looking at the price, I think 5-4 is a very, very fair price. I don't expect a lot of people are going to be tuning into this game, but I think it's the 4 o'clock. It's between two fantastic games, and I fancy Morocco here. A lot of people are tipping them to come second. If they want to have any chance of finishing second, they've got to get rid of Iran, and they've got to dispose of them quite comfortably. And I think Morocco at 5-4, I think it'll be a popular bet.
I'll definitely be watching it.
Oh, absolutely. If there was lads out on the road there playing football, I'd probably go to watch. You've no idea.
All right, it's offtheball.com/BoyleSports for all those offers. Leon, Blanche, thank you very much. Enjoy the football.
Seriously though, if people are expecting somehow the Spanish national team are going to come onto the pitch, their chins are going to be on the floor, they're going to be moping around. I mean, it's borderline ridiculous,
but you know what,
to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Ken. But the fact is, if they weren't to play well tonight, and say they drew 0-0 and they weren't great, they weren't in great form, then all of a sudden it does put a bit more pressure.
Yeah, but the argument is, Kev, the argument is they won't play well because of this big furore, suddenly it's going to affect them. Like it's absolutely splintered the spirit within the squad. Players aren't happy. Well, the players aren't happy. I mean, imagine they're happy with they're not going to be happy with the presidents of the Spanish Association. But why would that actually affect collectively their performance for a World Cup? For me, there's no logic to it whatsoever.
Well, there is logic to it, Ken. There is logic, because if one or two aren't happy that he's gone, then there could be a little bit of unhappiness within the squad. I'm not saying that's going to be the collective throughout.
That would never affect performance, Kevin. Seriously, Kevin, if you're in that situation, it would never affect in terms of your approach and the quality of your performance.
Right, Kenny, well, I'll put it this way. So say Lopetegui's got his ways playing. I'm sure he's got his 1-11. He's got his mind on the team that was going to start on Friday. And he's probably been working on that throughout the week. Then all of a sudden, Hero comes in and goes, I'll tell you what, don't necessarily fancy Diego Costa tonight. I might play somebody else. Does that affect the team then? Yeah. Because it simply does. Let's see how Hero makes his selection tonight. Because if he makes one or two changes from what the team that Lopetegui was going to make, that does affect the team.
That's an interesting. That's a fair point that you've made. But I'd probably counter that in saying I don't think Hero's stupid enough to go in a couple of days before the competition, go in and start throwing grenades around the dressing room and changing formation, necessarily changing personnel.
But he can't pick a team he doesn't believe in. So he's got to. If he doesn't believe in Costa, he can't pick him.
No, but if the team's been prepared, which it has been up for some considerable time, particularly the weeks leading up into this particular game, it'll be absolutely idiotic for him to come in and make those big kind of wholesale changes. I don't think he'd do it.
Yeah, strong stuff there from Kenny Cunningham on OTBAM this morning alongside Kevin Kilban, and thank God for the 2-hour time difference. Kevin Kilban just out of bed chatting to us this morning, but giving his expert views nonetheless. We asked you at the top of the show, was it right or wrong to bench Mo Salah? If you're just joining us, Mo Salah does not start for Egypt this afternoon against Uruguay in the 1 o'clock kickoff in the World Cup Group A match. We asked you, would it be sensible to start him if he was only half fit in your first World Cup game? And here are the results. This was our Twitter poll from earlier on. And no wins. So 190 of you voted and 58% of you reckon that no, it wouldn't be a wise move to start Salah for the first game of the World Cup. After listening to what John Duggan was saying earlier on from Moscow, I'm starting to agree with that myself. It is the Russia game, which is absolutely vital for this Egypt team. Uruguay are better than them. I think they expect to lose. If they can somehow cling on to a 0-0 draw, there will be parties all around Egypt tonight.
Yeah, people are never wrong either. People are always right.
People are always right.
The listeners are always right. But yeah, I think it's all down to that game against Russia. And if they get something today, yeah, that's fair enough. But if, as I said, if Salah had started and got injured, it'd be a disaster. So, he could still come off the bench and make an impact, but I do fancy Uruguay to win 3 from 3. So I think that's why the Russia and Egypt game is so crucial. But some of the games we're looking at over the weekend, the great thing is we're going to obviously see Spain and Portugal tonight. You just saw the debate there between Kenny and Kev. Like that's the intriguing thing. We just don't know how Spain are going to play. If they lose, then we're all going to say, they shouldn't have got rid of Lopetegui. If they win, it'd be like, they're going to win the World Cup. But we get to look at some of the big guns over the weekend, the likes of France, Argentina, Brazil and Germany. And
who are you most looking forward to seeing?
Probably
Brazil as well on Sunday, obviously.
Yeah, it's just Argentina. I want to see what they're like, because Sampaoli always said that if he gets time on the training ground, obviously they didn't play Israel in that game. He didn't want to play that game anyway. He said, I'd rather be on the training ground than play in these games, because I know John gave us a stat about all the different tactical changes. That's what he does. He's hoping that he can kind of stumble upon the right one, and it's all based around Messi. But Messi believes in Sampaoli. He is delighted that this is the coach that they have. But if this is a coach that plays a high line and he's got Otamendi and Fazio as his centre halves, that really worries me.
They're in trouble. France tomorrow morning is a very interesting one. It's 11 a.m. France against Australia in Group C. It's on in Kazan. I'm not buying this hype. I don't get why people have France on a pedestal above Spain, above Brazil, and above Germany.
They should have won the Euros. They beat Germany in the Euros.
It was in their own country. It was as mild a French campaign as you could possibly expect. I know they beat them in the Euros, but it was lacking in drama for a French side. And I'm not saying that things are going to explode on 2010 level here, but I just feel everything was a little bit rosy with that France team, and they still didn't manage to see it through. There was like a circumstantial advantage for that France team there. I just can't see how anybody, I'm not writing them off, I think they'll get to the semi-finals. I just can't see how anybody can put them above those three.
Yeah, I just think the difference with the team that they have now and the team that had the Euros, Kylian Mbappe, was obviously presuming he's going to be fit. He had a bit of a scare.
But has Pogba regressed?
The problem could be Pogba. It's not that he's regressed, it's just the system that they play. I'm a big fan of Nabil Fekir. I think what he brings, and Lamar is a good player as well. It's a case of maybe if, as the tournament progresses, Deschamps will find out what his best team is. He likes Giroud. Not everyone would start with Giroud, but I actually saw Giroud up front against Ireland, and at the Euros, you really see the damage he can do with his physicality. I thought he was too physical for our centre halves that day, so I would imagine that's why Deschamps likes him. Griezmann likes playing alongside him. Griezmann might let his football do the talking after the shambles of his non-announcement yesterday. But no, I think you have to take France seriously.
I am taking them seriously. I just don't see how they can be above Germany or Brazil in anybody's estimations. Germany and Brazil both playing on Sunday. We're back in the Luzhniki on Sunday at 4 o'clock for Germany against Mexico, and then Sunday evening at 7 o'clock it's Rostov-on-Don. It's Brazil against Switzerland in Group E. They're going to have no problems. They're both going to pick up 3 points in those games.
If Switzerland win, it's okay. Spain did the same in 2010. They lost to Switzerland 1-0, and then they went on to
Ross and co beating Spain that time.
But no, Brazil will be keen to put in a really good performance and just put down a marker to say, we're here and we're going to win this.
Yeah.
And the Germans will. I'm just really looking forward to seeing Timo Werner.
Yeah, well, that is a big thing. A lot of people will have
He won't start.
A lot of people will be hoping and praying that he does start, because a lot of people have him in for a Golden Boot. I think there is, a little bit of sentimentality towards Tim Klose there in terms of the Timo Werner train right there. But it is a bandwagon. It could well come to fruition. They are playing Mexico, as we say, in the Luzhniki on Sunday. Remember to go down to offtheball.com/BoyleSports for all the latest offers in terms of the World Cup. We will be back in World Cup Daily on Monday. There is a Twitter comment in here from Isil Cody saying, presume daily means daily, so weekend exclusive may be found with withdrawal symptoms otherwise. Thankfully, there is 5 hours of Off the Ball tomorrow and 5 hours of Off the Ball on Sunday as well. So you will be kept up to speed with what's happening. There will be no withdrawal symptoms, I can guarantee you that much. Another comment as well from Colin on YouTube, Colin Addy, I should say. Spain can coach themselves. It may boost them to do this. Indeed it might. Indeed it might. We are back on Monday. We'll be bringing you all the reaction and all the analysis from the weekend. Up next here on Off the Ball, though, stick with us on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook, because it's the Hurling Show with Shane Stapleton and co. We'll chat to you in a while. Good luck for now.